Okay, so I'm going to start my intro, and I just want to thank everyone for joining us in our second session of the Art House Artist Dialogues. Emily Splain is also here. I am Lila Voss. I'm the ED at Art House. And a little housekeeping, just keep yourselves mute so there won't be so much background noise, but we do welcome you to ask questions either by raising your hand before you unmute or by writing into the chat. So Melissa Daubert has been engaging and involving Clevelanders with her kinetic sculptures, installations, and community projects for over 15 years. She is a fabricator, designer, and educator. She taught in Zimbabwe while serving in the Peace Corps and has worked with Art House since 2005. Currently, she also works at CIA as a technical specialist. Melissa's focus is healing and education. You can find her public artwork in several Cleveland neighborhoods, and many commissioned works can be experienced at such locations as the Rainbow Babies Children's Hospital and the Gathering Place. She has traveled to Alaska and India to participate in residencies, and other awards include the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture Seth Rosenberg Award, the Detroit Shoreway Community Spirit Award, as well as the Ingenuity Festival Featured Artist. Melissa received her BFA from the Columbus College of Art and Design and is currently enrolled in the Master's Apprentice Program at Ursuline College for a Master's in Education. Meng-Hsuan is a Taiwanese artist. She is a traveler and observer of human nature. In her multimedia work, she explores identity through time and place. In the last few years, she has focused more on community projects and how character and cultural identity is revealed in the process. Meng's work has been in many local, national, and international exhibits from Taiwan to Germany to Cleveland, Ohio. Her multiple awards and residencies include the Excellence Art Award for New Media from Kaohsiung Museum, Taiwan, the Cleveland Foundation's Creative Fusion, and the Vermont Studio Center as well. She is also one of the artists who participated in the HAP Connects the Art of Sustainable Plastics project, which is currently on view at Art House. Meng teaches at both the Rainey Institute and through our Art House programs. She received her undergrad from Taipei Municipal University of Education and an MFA from SUNY New Paltz, New York. We welcome both of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was very good writing, Lila.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Gina.
Okay, so Melissa, how do you want to get started?
I have a couple things prepared to show you. I have one of the things about my work is I do a lot of different types of work. And so a lot of my work is public. And so I start off with a model. So I pulled a couple of models. Here's, I don't know, can you see this?
Yeah, can you zoom in a little bit? Can you bring the phone closer?
Yeah.
Okay.
So these are 1 inch to a foot scale models, and they're actually they're animals, and they're made with rebar, and they're covered with astroturf, and they're for the hospital. You mentioned that I do work that's for healing, so I don't know if you could see that. That's actually what it looked like when it was installed at the Akron Children's Hospital. So this is just it's meant to be like kind of a something you happen upon when you're walking through their garden at the place where the patients can go, and it looks like a topiary, but it's actually astroturf.
So it's always green.
It's always green,
And
and it's actually quite lovely. I love how it turned out, even though it's turf. It's very cozy, and it's kind of nice. So there's work like that, and then there's things that are more interactive. This actually is a prototype of a tornado. And you can see it's kind of basically to get the idea of scale and proportion and how these kind of like the framework would all go together. And this was actually made into a life-size tornado that was an entrance to an installation for Playhouse Square for their children's theater festival. So there's bigger things like that. And then this is another prototype. This is a horse and the cart. It's called Sawhorse. Sawhorse is a character in Frank Baum's books, who is the author of Wizard of Oz. And he had other characters that we really don't hear about because they're in his other books. So there was this whole exhibit was about stuff like that. Anyway, these are more, I just have a lot of prototypes. I could show you the real thing on my computer, but these are my models. These are unicycles. There's 8 of these. And maybe if you guys are familiar with Art House neighborhood, these are in the Art House neighborhood. And there's 8 of them, and they all have these roots riding on top of them. It's called root riders. And once again, these are 1 foot or 1 inch equals a foot. And the little white ovals are AstroTurf in real life. And this was actually the prototype I made. That was my proposal. Okay. And then that's what it ended up being. So there was a lot of compromise there because I don't know. It was a long time ago. Funding and, oh, we want them to be bike racks too. And, oh, you're not allowed to attach anything to our light poles. And so there was a lot of reasons, I think.
Okay.
So, and then this is another example of how I work. Like I'll build these little models. This is a horse and rider. And that ended up being a giant one that was life size for Community Festival Ingenuity. And then Firefish Festival is another event that I like to do. This is my guy. He's kind of big. He actually rides on a tricycle. And so the visitor actually, it's a double trike. So the visitor actually gets on the front of the trike and rides and pedals, and then this guy pedals with you. So, and then I also make little stuff. This is a tiny, not tiny, it's a bicycle wheel size. But this one you crank it, and then these guys they ride around on the platform. They're bike riders. I like using bikes a lot because they're kinetic, and a lot of my work is moving. So Lila mentioned that I work for the Cleveland Institute of Art now, which is my first job in 15 years where I had to go somewhere. This is what I started doing at the Institute, because although I'm teaching the kids how to weld, sometimes kids need their space and you're just sitting there. So I started making these MIG welding sculptures. This is all just welds that were built up on top of each other. And it's fun. It's like challenging. You can kind of see the weld patterns. I think I'm getting really into MIG welding while I'm there because it's a resource I don't have in my own studio. And this is another thing I made at the Institute recently for Christmas. It's a Advent wreath. my buddy brought all this metal gas lamp parts. So I made this for Advent. I don't know how this looks through the video, but and I showed you that small horse and rider,
Mhm.
and that was the model. And this is the model of what the horse actually looked like. He was a long-haired horse. And then these are just little sculptures. This guy's about the film industry, you know, film and all. This is an outhouse, actually. And then this is our Mother Mary and baby Jesus. And this is a kind of a typical scene in my neighborhood. I'm in a very Catholic neighborhood, and they like to process around with their deities and flowers, and so I wanted to make this because I really love that actually about my neighborhood. And then this is a little stagecoach with another prototype of a sculpture that I made inside of it. Actually, I try to save space. That's actually at the gathering place in Beechwood. It's a place for people with cancer, and it's called Listening Man, and you could go and talk to him. So I don't know what is that.
Melissa, do you want to try to show us some of the images of the actual work from your computer?
Sure.
I mean, is that a, are those just separate images, or is it in any kind of presentation?
Well, I have some videos. Like I have an example. I have Urban Trotter. This is a video of can you see that?
Yeah.
Let's make it bigger. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So this is an example of a public, it's something I make that I don't make any money, but people love pushing this thing around. And this one actually had audio. Oops, sorry. So this is really low budget and a lot of fun, and you know, I still have it if anybody ever needs a horse to push around. And there's a monkey on his back. That's a monkey. And you know, even though it was really kind of a quickie, this was for Ingenuity Festival. You know, the hair on the tail's real hair. So it's kind of a really nice sculpture, and it has real human teeth. So there's details that are really kind of sweet. Let's see if I could get rid of this now. Man, I need a tech person. Krishna Das wants me to log on. So this is a public work over in Collinwood, and it's called Living Hills. So that's an example of one of my real sculptures. This video shows my work at Playhouse Square that was regarding Frank Baum's books. So that's the tornado, which I showed you guys the armature of that. That's, you could see it in the background, had all the rainbow colors. That's the little cardboard horse thing that I showed you guys earlier. That was one of the one of the biggest projects I've done recently. So did you want me to show you anything more work? I can. I mean, I don't I feel like it's been half an hour, but maybe it hasn't.
Why don't you show us a couple more pieces?
Okay. This is another piece. I'm going to show, is it okay if I'll show you Catwalk, because that was for Ingenuity, which is a good example of how I love to get my kids involved with my projects, which that last project, Journey to Emerald City, you're aware that John Marshall High School, that was basically my crew for that installation. They were working the day of the event, and several of them came back, and I paid them to help me strike the show. So it was cool because they could get an idea of really what it's like, being an artist beyond just these small things that they're able to do. But this piece was done with much younger students, and it was exhibited at Ingenuity Festival. So each of the kids made one of those cats. These are the kids. And these kids were a handful. They were hilarious. I love them so much. That was a really fun project. I love bringing the kids' work down there and giving them a chance to come down with their families and, see what they did in the public.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a video. This is another community event. This is also hosted by Playhouse Square. Most of my good documentation that I actually have video for is with them, because they are very generous and they pay for the videos. So, but this is the whole world's population of children, and it's divided by continent. And so you can see how many children, whoops. This is actually this is like a whole bunch of videos. I didn't realize, but the one that I was trying to show you, sorry. There we go. Jeez, I don't know what else could happen. But anyway, there's the whole world. And you can see, you know, the different continents, and it's actually mathematically correct. And then the audio, as you're walking through it, the different continents begin joining in with the singing. And so it ends up becoming this huge, beautiful chord once all of the different continents are actually activated, and it's got motion sensors at each continent. And I worked with the School of Rock on the audio for this, and they were really great. The students there, you know, they learned about chanting Om and how that's the first sound in the universe, and you know, they learned about a lot about that, and then it even had the penguins, the number of penguins. So that was, you know, was one of my more meaningful pieces of artwork.
Does anybody have any questions at the moment? We can save them to the end, or we can shoot some questions now. Gina's saying, I'm so glad the film festival's Zoom canceled so she could join. Oh yeah, that's great. Okay, so why don't we move on to Meng?
Okay, so hi guys. So I think I don't need to really talk about too much of my detailed background, but I can share a little bit how am I, you know, right now living in Cleveland. I was, you know, kind of born and grew up in Taiwan. And the first, you know, art kind of, I have been grew up always like, you know, drawing and painting, and the first time doing sculpture, because of this talk, I was like actually chasing back, I think it was 20 years ago, and thought about, I think I kind of appreciate this event. So I start to think about, you know, my art process recently, which I haven't actually have time to think about too much recently. Yeah. And so about 14 years ago, came to America to study art in upstate New York. And then after graduation, I was curious about what's the art scene outside of the school in America. So I spent couple years just kind of traveling back and forth in between home and the States, doing art project as a way to explore the culture in different places, and found out, you know, there are so many different cultures and people and places, the landscape in the States. So how did I end up Cleveland? It was 7 years ago through a residency, 3 months residency through Creative Fusion Cleveland Foundation. And back then, happened to Rain Institute was my host. And then after 3 months, got deep connection with the community. And after leaving Cleveland, that was the point, you know, I was kind of in the traveling life condition for about 5 years, and really want to kind of building a a base. And so that was a point in 2014. I was thinking about what's next. So end up through the residency, I met my boyfriend Titus, and also Rainey was helping providing me a job opportunity to stay. So I was kind of just, oh, that was Titus. I was kind of just give a try, think about, maybe this is a place I could make it home. So it has been 7 years so far, and really enjoy Cleveland so far. I think the city is right about the right size for me. It's not too crazy, but you still have everything kind of. And so, so I'm gonna start sharing my slides. My big interest in art and my purpose is I've been always being very interested in people's sense of existence. I think as the artist, I think it happens to us. We all like to explore who we are, what's the purpose of our life. So in the beginning of my art journey, I think I explore a lot, put a lot of attention to inner self. And so I would like to show the first inspiration for my first sculpture. It was about 20 years ago. I was in the library seeing this picture in a science magazine, and it shows like a enlarged ant. So back then, the picture isn't quite alike as this one, but the concept is kind of the same. It's like when you enlarge that ant, and I see like this ant is trying to sucking up the sugar, this candy or sugar water, but their body turned to that color. And so I was quite, I feel like that image was quite intriguing, and that actually let me think about, everybody kind of look like, end up will turn into and look like, what are we seeking for? What are we, interested in? So I made the first sculpture piece at that moment. I was casting a ant. So it's about maybe 6 inches long. And so the original material was from caramel. And then I cased it to polyresin for imitating and kind of dye it in a little bit brownish and imitating as a camera. And the way display it was, I think I make maybe about 200 of that. And then it was like the first time trying to kind of think about what is sculpture. But I think it was that experience opened my mind, kind of give me a window of a different material, because I was using food in the beginning. Like while I was drawing and painting earlier in my life, I've never thought about material could be that diverse. And I like to experimenting things. So the process of trying to figure out how to do this from the sugar and then resin, playing with those materials, gave me a really, really fun, like kind of like a little adventure time. And then after that, that was also the same sculpture from the same period of time back in, when I was really, really young. It was an afternoon cleaning my grandmom's grave. And I think back then my grandmom has already passed away for about 5 years. I was looking into the dirt and thought about, she is lying on the other side. And kind of that moment was thinking about, what type of life it's what's going on after life. So having that idea of making a sculpture like the picture, it was an upside down kind of a land area. And I was trying to play with that material with So the dirt part, I was when I was doing the little model, I was using meat floss, and but when I tried to enlarge it, and it started getting molded and having like little fly baby, and then end up have to substitute it as using soybean and soy sauce. This is how the vegetarian people in the Eastern culture, they kind of mimicking pork floss using soybean, and kind of using that to representing the relationship in between people's, I think it's animals' body and the dirt. And so the next couple work, I'm showing you some of my other type of art. So afterwards came to America, and I experienced quite a lot of different culture difference. And so, and that actually made me to start think about, why would I sometimes feel like I lost that I have that physical sense of existence, but I was missing home a lot. And that missing home is a big impact of me feeling sometimes I'm not there. I'm not, here, living in the different culture, struggling with language and being kind of like an outsider. So it was the first time in my life thinking about what is home for us and what does that really
Hello?
influence us who we are. I made this performance. Hello.
Can I use your
Hold on, Joey. Oh, I need to talk to you.
Okay, so this performance is called On the Move. I was wearing a backpack made by cardboard
Are you still
and
there?
wearing the,
Oh, I accidentally hit call and I was calling you. Oh my gosh, ridiculous. Okay, let me try this again. Can somebody mute themselves? Now I'm on phone,
Hello?
not speaker, okay.
it's fine.
Hello?
So you
Come in
said,
here and talk
I
together.
have
This is,
you,
well,
Be
maybe-
nice and talk.
oh, so Dad's on the phone. He wants to say hi.
Mun, you can
Hold
mute
on,
them.
Joey,
Joey wants to talk to you.
Mom has to mute
Ella,
them.
go sit in there with him.
Yeah, Mun, you can mute them.
no,
I'll
I'm
do the
here.
host.
Okay,
Joey came out to
I'll
say hi
find
to
out
you.
who we go.
What's wrong?
Who is it?
I didn't.
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so wearing like that. Okay. And I was doing about like 10 days kind of a road trip, and kind of randomly stop somewhere doing performance. The window of the house is a LED screen, and so actually they will show simultaneously show the surroundings from the my back view. And so, and there's like a little spy camera, old fashioned style spy camera hidden in the chimney area. So when I sometimes stop somewhere, I didn't talk to people unless people talk to me. And mostly when they start the conversation, I'll start to ask like, what do they think about home is, and why, what is home for them, where are their home, and why do they think that way? And also found out while I'm passing through places, I become part of the landscape. And originally those landscape are super strange for me, but because of that experience, I get to expand, the landscape in my mind, and something strange or something that I'm familiar before, because of the experience, become part of the home experience. Kind of a trip of building a new home by encounter different people, different culture, different landscape. And end up, my sister and brother-in-law was helping me video the conversation on the road. So end up we make a short documentation film and I can show a little bit of the conversation in between.
Our destination. And then we are going back to San Jose. Our home, right.
Your home?
It's okay.
It's okay, just okay.
You know, I would prefer to live someplace other than San Jose.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little too crowded.
You grew up there?
No.
No?
I grew up near Chicago and in a place called Green Bay, Wisconsin. Also,
Wisconsin.
yes, Wisconsin is the state.
Yeah.
And I hitchhiked out here. 20, do you know what hitchhike?
No?
You stand by the road like this
Oh,
and a car picks you up.
really?
Yeah, so I hitchchiked out here in 19, no,
just
just myself, a long time ago, many years ago. I stopped and came to the Grand Canyon 27 years ago.
Okay.
And then I ended up in San Jose
Uh-huh.
and I was there for a long time. And then I met my wife,
Uh-huh.
who is around here somewhere.
Okay.
And her family lives in San Jose
Uh-huh.
and she won't leave.
She won't live.
Yeah, and I won't leave without her.
Okay.
So and the kids, you know,
Yeah.
I can't leave them. So
So I wouldn't show the whole thing because it might be too long, but it's kind of the idea collecting people's idea about home, and from their answer, thinking about, you know, how do I think about that and why is that so important as that influence who we are, and learning that the idea of home can also grow through our experience in life, and something that's, you know, the internal home for us is always, we can always come back to ourselves. It doesn't matter where we are. And so after that piece, I made another performance focused on kind of a silence, interacting with people silently just by staring at them. And so this piece is an exploration about the existence between other people and myself during a specific moment of viewing. So in this piece, I stand in the dark space in the back of the two-way mirror, and an image of the constantly walking human figure from small to large is projected on the mirror. And this image is my walking silhouette. So I was pre-video my walking silhouette and make it to like a light source from the projector. And the enlarging walking image implies a distance in between the viewer and me. So it might be easier to understand that, but I was just showing some video process of that live performance. And so that's kind of the process. The viewer came up to the mirror in different time. So they might start with, they don't see me at all. But when they start to see a face behind the mirror, some of them will start to question, is that like a projected video or is there like a real person? So what I was trying to do is to just follow their eyes. I was just kind of doing eye contact with them, just follow wherever they are, use that way to kind of let them experience like I'm right here. And so that was this piece. And after a couple experiments, deeply feel like, a person's sense of existence is deeply related to the context of time, space, and place. And so I start to do a lot of experimenting in different media work about the topic of time. And one of it is the 2018 Room to Let, and I was in Gina's house. And so there was this space is very narrow and long. So I decided to take apart two of the old door from the house and setting up, each of them on one side of that room. And then, so the video installation that enhance viewers' presence and their relation with time and space. So in this project, 2 door frames were installed in the position of facing each other. And each door frame was attached to one of the original door from this abandoned house. And that will actually be demolished right after Room to Let exhibition. But end up actually take this 2 door home. So the door is still at my house. And so while standing in the space between 2 doors, the viewers will see themselves and their motion projected on both doorways. So the position is like this, because it's really hard for me to take a photo view of the whole thing because the space there. But here is the video from that day. So the viewer face toward will show their back, and the door behind them will actually show their face. And so the viewer will recognize that their movements shown on both screens are slightly time delay. And the reason that I want to create that kind of time delay is that I think it's only the participant through their physical movement can tell when was that motion. So it's only me, myself, knowing that movement was from a couple seconds ago. So that create that time, the sense of that time thing. And so my idea of creating that like very strange space and kind of tweeting the viewers kind of sense of space is that the door you're facing is always like the future direction, and the door behind you is kind of your past. And it doesn't matter which way you face, that you always see your back in your front, and you always kind of, if you want to see your past, you need to turn back. So kind of creating that in between space. So what is present, and the idea of time of now, it's always in between, past and future. But they actually, it's kind of floating, and very transient, it always passes very fast, can really catch it. So, okay. So I guess being the present time that is always being in between one's past and future. And I was kind of like curious about viewers of, their reaction and their interaction. And hopefully, some of them perceive their, this vacuum house as an object that anchors time. And so they are actually interact with a space that actually has a lot of time history. And I was thinking like, we all like to look back and forth in between our past and future for various reasons. But shared by all is that need of acquire a sense of self, that, that anchor of self, and knowing like where we are, sometimes not necessary in what kind of place, but where we are in relation to time in our own life history. So I'm gonna skip some, but the next one is another, I'm gonna skip some too. Another sculpture that actually I was like, investigating about time. And so this is 2009, I was doing an internship in Sculpture Park, in Franconia Sculpture Park. And it was an outdoor space, so I start to think about what I want to make, and end up thinking about, what if I make a tree there? But it looks like a part of the space, but actually it's like a music box. So when people interact with it, the tree can spin. So here is a little bit of the video. Yeah, so that was a piece that I was trying to using music box motion as a way to create that spinning motion, like kind of like a clock motion, but there's no music at all. There's no sound, and so that silent spinning motion implies the passage of the time. Because of that piece experience, that experience connect to my last year. There's a sculpture on the rooftop of the yards, and back then Lise asked me to do a site-specific work for the rooftop. So I started thinking about something that actually will echo with the environment, and also I was using one of the concept that I like to play and kind of investigate a lot. That was time. The piece is called Out of the Reach. And so I was using stainless steel on the bottom, and just thinking about that will reflect, kind of like a mirror that reflect the sky. And for me, the color change of the sky is very, very much like the ocean, that always go with the weathers and change the mood. So I was trying to create a kind of like you're, traveling on the ocean kind of movement. So this is a little bit of that. is while you kind of spinning the wheels, where you stand, turning. So trying to create a little bit sense of like you're like traveling on the boat. But the thing is, the spinning motion, the direction is actually opposite as your wheels direction. So it's actually opposite. Like you're turning right, but actually your body is turning left. So that piece I was thinking about, we all kind of traveling in time, and we all kind of have something we pursue, and maybe we all kind of have some kind of dream, but sometimes, it's like, where is the starting point? Because that motion of, spinning, you're like going somewhere, but you are actually going nowhere. And are we still on the track sometimes when we are heading some type of destination? Or are we just floating the time? Yeah, so that's another piece of site-specific sculpture. I was thinking about the idea of time in that space. All right, so right at 7 years ago, moved to Cleveland. That was the time that year I started to think about what other kind of art that I want to practice, and what is something new that I actually never really been through a lot. And think about, I'm always interested in people, people's sense existence. And I was thinking maybe the best way to learn about people is from people. So I started to practice a lot of community engaged art. And the first one is called Moment to Moment. So I actually traveled with this project to 4 different locations and doing with 5 different community. The whole time is 1 year. And there's one stop is in Cleveland. That was the year that I was in the creative fusion residency. So through soaking, I invite the participant to soak their feet in a tub of water with some little goldfish swimming around. And what goldfish will do is they will, nibble your feet and trying to get, eat your desking. And so I was thinking that kind of create a cycle, the participants serving as the small goldfish with nutrition from their desking of their feet. And every nibble from a fish transmit the intimate sense of touch. It's like kissing, a little kissing to the participants, and propel their subconscious idea as it merges to stream into their present time. I was more curious about, so what I actually invite the people to do is I leave them alone in that setting, whether it's in the middle of the river or it's in a single room. I leave them alone. I just ask them like, can you just talk out loud what you're thinking at the moment without planning, without thinking? And I record that process of their talking. And I'm kind of curious in this kind of setting with a little bit sense of touch from a fish along with them, what kind of idea would they pop up in their mind? And so I was think I can show a little bit of the process of the people's talk, because I was recording the view from from top of their feet, but and also recording their voices while they're speaking.
Hello, fish. Thank you for the kisses. Your tails are moving like butterfly wings. I think you are butterflies of the water, butterflies of the river.
Yeah, I can show a little bit. That was with the rainy students.
Green gray. White, some on dark orange, and some on dark white, some on light orange and dark orange, some on white, green gray, little fishies.
And end up the way to present the work.
Right here. The river passing,
It's
time
like this.
passing, me passing. you passing, the treetops in the wind in the treetops, bird song in the river, the wind in the river, the trees in the river, light moving again, light moving again.
So it was projecting the video got from every participant and projected into a little pond and inviting the audience to be, if they want to soak their feet in the water, they can, to listening to the past participants and so end up like finding out everybody's feet, showing everybody's feet, even though we don't show their face, but everybody's feet are so different and they're all the different colors. They're old people, they're, kids, they are like people that actually from all different type of look and cultures. And some of them talk about their dream the night before. Some of them talk about their childhood memory about river or fish. And I was also doing that in the science center and with a lot of vision impaired participants. And some of them might still have a little bit vision, but the most, the thing actually, when they interact with the fish, it's basically from the sense of touch. And some of them releasing their imagination about water, and some of them might actually have a little bit memory about that. It was just, for me, that piece, I didn't really have a strong purpose of what actually I want, but more so creating a space and a situation and kind of being an observer and see what I will find out from people in a very specific setting. Okay, so I'll do maybe two more. So this is another community-based project that I was doing after that, the fish project. So I was in Bronx, New York, and collaborating with a art education center. It's called Casita Maria, and the center is based on Latino and African America. And so I invite 8 different families to do a project about to kind of investigate the sense of existence from family. And so this is Casita Maria, and the project has 2 phases. The first part, the participants, their parents were asked to choose a song they taught to them when they are little, from their grandparents or parents. And then they would teach their children that song. And then some of them is from their, mother language, which a lot of their children might not be able to fluently speaking it. And afterwards, when the children learn the song, I asked them to teach this cockatiel parrot the same song. Of course, the cockatiel won't actually really pick up, but it was just that image of a parrot that was kind of mimicking that language and mimicking that rhythm. Okay. And I was using that process to strengthen that families and communities by passing down the cultures. And I was also inviting the children, after they learn the song, interact with the bird, walking the bird. It actually takes some kind of trust. The bird, and they have to actually walk in a circle while they sing that song together. And I was recording that process as part of the video installation later. So end up the whole process showing in this former church space that's Residency Unlimited in Brooklyn. And their inner space is a former church. So I was projecting 2 sides by the window. One is the parent side, one is the the children's side, and the video is they sing together in echoes. And then the walking performance from the children, I was projecting from down to the floor and creating that, you know, sense of circle. So they are actually, I think I use circle a lot as a motion to imply time, kind of like they are walking that circle, walking that, you know, in the time, singing the song, and on the side of the wall of the piece, they're showing the teaching process of the when they teach the bird a song. So a little bit of the process was this.
So the reason I selected the song is because I always sang it when I was a kid. My mom sang it, I sang it in school. So I would like my daughter to also learn it. Pollito chicken.
I can't say it.
Pollito chicken.
Pollito chicken.
Gallina hen.
Gallina hen.
Lápiz pencil.
Pollito chicken. Gallina hen. Lápiz, pencils, and pluma pen. Ventana, window, puerta, door. Maestra, teacher, and piece of floor.
Pollito chicken. Gallina hen. Lápiz pencil and pluma pen. Ventana, window.
So I was actually recording both their singing and kind of post-production to putting together and make it as echo. And in the end, showing the gallery was like, the space was like this. All right.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
So I was actually, when I was looking at Melissa's work, I just have a couple questions. It was like all the creatures that you made, and can you talk a little bit about, you know, what's your inspiration and what are they for you, you know, because a lot of them looks a little bit like for me, it was like the space that you create, that atmosphere is like a fantasy world, and a very like child. It's a lot of like a very innocent thing, and I like a lot of creatures. Some of them look like humans, some of them are not, and some of them look like cartoon character. You know, like when you creating those creatures, what are your thinking? What's your process?
Geez. So which ones are you thinking of? Because usually my work, a lot of my work is driven by educational goals, or maybe my client is saying, oh, you know, this is who we're creating for. So I guess it's usually, you know, I'm trying to manifest something. Generally, usually it's for other people, so it's kind of thinking in terms of what they would like. But I mean, I like my work too. I guess I like things that are more, most of my work is actually, kids really like my work a lot, but I actually don't create it most of the time with them. Like, I don't know. Can you give me pick one of the things so I could kind of break it down?
Well, Melissa, you know, your work in that, I think part of what's really interesting about it is your ideas about that you focus on healing and also on education, but at the same time, your work does have a very playful quality. And I think that the people who, you know, that the horse with a monkey, and how much people love to push that thing because it's magical. And you know exactly how the mechanism works. It's a very, it's a very basic kind of kinetic process, right? And
Very playful.
when it's in action, it totally transforms it. It's like that thing is alive. And so I may be getting tangential to what Meng's question is, but it's sort of that, what's that relationship between healing and your passion about educating, and what results in this very kind of playful and often very magical result.
Something I love about your work, Melissa, is like, so I'm a total nerd. I love anime and manga and Studio Ghibli, and a lot of your work reminds me of like physical representations of these things that are 2D for the most part, and I love seeing them. Like I loved I don't remember the name of it, but it's I think you said it was at a library. It was the figures, and it has 4 legs and the head, the face.
Oh yeah, it's called Family Walk,
Yeah.
and it's at the Akron Children's Hospital.
And that one totally reminds me of something like from childhood, from watching these fun animes that I loved, and like the yokai and just like these kinds of thought processes that kind of just expanded into making these fun creatures. It totally takes me onto that journey every time I see your work.
Yeah, because it's interesting. I've been told before that my work looked like some cartoon, and I'm not a digital person at all, so it's kind of it's odd to me. I never know what to think. I'm like, oh, but like I want to just show you something in my window because it's Christmas. Let me see if I could turn it around. So I don't know if you can. I don't know. Can you see this? These guys. I don't know if you remember this from These characters. Can you see anything? And
Yeah. Oh, they're
Okay.
so sweet.
So those. Okay. Here's the back view. Sorry, I'm having technical problems. Those guys I made the way they are and the way they look just because I had to make like 2,000 something of them. And they're basically just, so these guys, they have a coconut hair body, but underneath, they're all legs. Like it's all wire. And then these outfits were all just clothing that they're donations from people. So I would say that the way things look are less important to me than the materials. Like I'm often driven by my materials primarily because that's what motivates me. Usually it's like I'm given something that I have to get rid of, like a piano or something, I'm sure people are always donating things to other artists. I mean, don't people just come by and be like, here, I knew you could make something with this. A lot of times I'm trying to use those things.
I want to read a comment in the chat, which is something that I wanted to bring up as well. I love how conceptual and interactive Meng's work is, and how fantastic and mechanical toy-like Melissa's work is. These were good artists to bring together. Thanks. Our dinner is getting cold, but I really enjoyed this. Oh, okay. So that was from Cynthia.
I was going to say regarding Meng's work, I love that cardboard house on your body thing. And you were talking about home. And I didn't show you the work that I did about home, but I did 2 installations around the topic of where is home.
Mm.
And so it really, it is one of those things that they're so multifaceted, but I love I love that idea, and I just like the visual of it, someone walking around with that on their body.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And and I'm trying to think back to those shoes. You had a pair of double-sided shoes. And I just love that. I have like about 400 pairs of shoes in one of my buildings right now, if that I had from an installation, if anybody needs any shoes, by the way.
Yeah, what's interesting about that, I mean, it's wonderful serendipity that you did a piece also that dealt with home.
Be right back.
Okay. But what I was gonna say is that's a piece that Meng did that is serious in its nature, but how she executed it was rather playful. And I think that that's what really invited people to talk to her, because it was such an odd kind of image, somebody carrying their house on their back like a mollusk, right? And in a sense, we all carry our home with us, which is partly what you were exploring during that time.
Yeah, I think that was that was what I was thinking back then. And I think that they come out with very direct idea. I mean, the visual object come out with a very direct idea. So it was fun. When I look back, I can feel like that was a very, very young thinking, and very, it was like when you look back some of your work, sometimes you feel like that thought is actually very simple. And but I still like that experience very much. Like maybe right now the way that I think about home might different. I might not making some kind of piece like that, but still kind of appreciate that simple young thoughts. Yeah, it was very literal and direct, but I think but sometimes it might be too simple. But for me, I was like, sometimes because of it's very simple, so make it very easy to interact with other people, because it's very direct.
Yeah, and I, like I said, it created kind of an absurd image with you walking. And so that immediately, those kinds of things help to, people can let their guard down, because it's sort of a disjunctive image, but that's part of what makes it intriguing and delightful.
Thanks.
And I think that goldfish, I was at that installation. I don't know where I was, but I put my feet in that water.
Probably Playhouse Square, one of their theater space.
Okay.
Maybe.
I mean, I don't think so. I think it was like, was it at Spaces or no? Where else did you have that in Cleveland? Because I
think it was that one night thing. It wasn't on the stage. It was like a side room, but it was in the theater. Yeah.
It was it? Okay. I don't know. I don't remember where I was, but I do remember that water and people putting their feet in there and sitting there, and we were laughing. It was like a group of people, actually. It looked like there were different versions of it, but I know my buddy Leah and I put our feet in there. We were
Well, I just think about, that displaying experience sometimes is also very time specific, because think about right now, it's really inappropriate.
I know, I was thinking about
scenario
that.
going on. Yeah, right now it was probably something people wouldn't like to do.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. And when Melissa, when you showed the video of the Playhouse piece with the Emerald City, and it got to the spot where they were giving out popcorn that had other words on it, I it was like a nanosecond, but I did sort of a knee jerk because nobody had a mask on.
Yeah. Yeah, with their doctor jacket.
Right, right. And, I think partly what was interesting about that piece and what really made it work is that you created an environment for just participants, whatever age they were, to really interact with, to participate in. But because you were, and I'm assuming this, because you were also working with the Playhouse, you also created an environment for the performers to interact
Well,
with. So it was like those two things, actually it was those three things that were turning together basically.
yeah, so okay, so the funny thing about those performers,
Oh yeah.
okay, so that entire space is like 11,000 square feet. I was told to do anything I wanted in there and tell them how much it would cost. Okay. So I came up with this crazy, amount of work that I just, I read Frank Baum's books and I was like ready to create the whole 13 volumes there. But those dancers were that installation was called Journey to Emerald City. So you're walking through getting to Emerald City, which is where the performers were. I hired those performers and was part of creating their costumes, and like that was something that I brought in. Those dancers, two of them lived 2 doors down from me. And they actually, the one guy that danced with them actually performed with, I found this out afterwards, of course, but the one male dancer, the only male dancer that I could get, performed with the Lion King. And I was just floored that I had the guy from the Lion King and I didn't even know it. Because he was married to this woman. She owns the business called, I think it's called Room Service. It's a retail store on 25th. But basically, all artists have all these different lives that they cobble together to make a living. And so she was a costume designer and she owned a retail store, and her husband was part of Lion King. And those other dancers had their own dance company called Elu. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're local. They all used to dance with Inlet when they were first starting off. So I think it's so cool you thought they were Playhouse Square people.
Yeah.
'cause-
Yeah. Well, but yeah, and I think you told me that at one time, but I forgot. But yeah, that's sort of, that makes a lot of sense. That actually makes more sense.
Yeah,
But
because
still-
but
still, what I
that's
said
really,
holds true.
yeah, I love that though. I'm like,
Where
wow.
it came from.
That's cool. That's a feather in my cap.
You're here for the arts.
Oh, Andy's here now.
So
I'm
go ahead. I was going to ask another question.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Meng's. It's Meng, like mung bean or Meng.
Like mung bean.
Okay, Meng. Yeah, I was just thinking about, I know I've met you because you were here with Creative Fusion and I've always been involved with them. And I'm familiar with the Rainey Institute and the whole 9 yards. And I would love to get together sometime.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize you were still in Cleveland.
Yes. The longest residency that I've been
Yeah.
experiencing.
And Gina, I see Gina. Hi, Gina. I just want to say hi.
Hi guys. Yeah, it's
See
Hi,
really weird
Gina.
because
Me
I
and
remember
Gina kind of
Melissa.
work together, so we kind
Yeah,
of see each other a
but-
lot.
Yeah, but I remember Melissa during her first Ingenuity
Yeah.
Yeah.
with the walk. Yeah, with the kinetic creature. Yeah, that was hilarious. I was in the little
I
Starbucks
would
shop
really
with my crew.
love to experience those
Mhm.
work. That yeah, and I
that's
like
why they're
bicycles
always so
very
playful.
much too. So a lot of your
Mhm.
motion was like on wheels. I really, just by looking at it, I think it's super fun.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
it's weird
It made
because.
me want to experience it.
Mhm. Yeah, and after seeing Meng's, her original work before coming here, I was like, she every summer at Rainy, she does all these amazing things, and I'm like, you got to do your own stuff. So I said, you got to get in rooms to let with us. Because you got to do your own thing, So it's just like, I feel like you had stopped making your own artwork, and you were focused on what was going on with the kids and making artwork for them. And like unlike Melissa, who grabbed the kids and put them in the artwork too. That's good. So I like the two balances when it comes to that. So that's kind of really cool. But yeah, you it's exploded since then, basically. But I drive by your little creatures all the time in Collinwood, Melissa.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you probably do too, Mon, because you're over there.
Yeah, I live in
Uh-huh.
this neighborhood.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So So
I
it's
was
hilarious.
wondering if they were still over in Collinwood because I was told that building, it was like the neighborhood development group. They're not there anymore. Is that?
That's true. Yeah, that's a whole other story. Like, politics involved.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very unfortunate, actually. But so the Northeast Shores got absorbed into the South Collinwood CDC.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, since when?
At least 2 years ago. No, I think maybe it's 3 now.
Okay.
Mm.
3
Alright.
years. Yeah. It's not a happy story.
Mm.
Well, that's not good.
Do we have anything else to cover?
Does Meng have my contact info? Because I really don't.
Well, I've been emailing you both.
Yeah.
So,
I'm so bad with the stupid email. Like my phone, I think it's connecting all of your emails into one email.
it's just one long thread.
I hate that because I can't find anything and it doesn't come up on my phone. I could get it on my laptop, but it doesn't come on my phone. But anyway, I would love to be able to get together with Meng,
Mhm.
once the COVID leaves, I guess.
But even though you want to do like a video thing, just kind of like sometimes, talk about something, that's fine.
Yeah, we could do a Zoom meeting now. I have Zoom.
Who knows this thing will be how long?
Yeah.
I'll email you my contact, like my phone, and whenever you.
Oh yeah, let's do that because I'm actually rethinking my whole master's degree because of the whole Zoom and everybody's teaching on Zoom and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be the worst teacher ever.
No, you won't. You'll get up to speed.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you so much. This has been really wonderful.
Thank you.
And I probably won't see you. So yes, have a really great holiday.
Happy holidays.
You too.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.